Welcome to the workshop Play Your Best Game. Learn how to leverage your business data. We'll begin by asking a question. Why should you even bother about collecting, analyzing, and leveraging the data? Let's look at it. Frankly speaking, it's complex, it's overlapped, it's mixed. Look at your own business data, there's so many things that get interlinked, intermingled. You don't really have simplicity in this. It's vast. There is no limit to how much data you can record. You can go on taking up more and more dimensions of data recording. It's pretty much endless. You can go collect hell lot of data. It's demanding. Now, for data to be useful, valuable, it needs to be complete, up to date, accurate, and reusable. If it is not one of these four also, you will not really be able to derive value out of it. But hey, it's pure good. Everybody is after data, but you yourself have not really mastered to leverage your own data. Why is it pure good? It brings in many things. One of the most important things that it brings in is objectivity. You start looking at your own business and what is happening inside your own business in a very objective way. Not what you feel, not what you think is happening, not what your views are, not what your ambition is, but what actually is happening in the reality. You start seeing that. So it brings in a solid piece of objectivity into your view, how you look at your business. Flexibility. You know your range of play very well when you master your data. You know what kind of offers to make, you know how to negotiate, how to create products, where to say no, what kind of range you have to maybe take a deal or something. There is this range within which if you play, you're doing fine, and you know that very well when you're on top of the data. So it brings in flexibility in doing business. You can sometimes make offers which you otherwise wouldn't, and you can say no to otherwise something that would be a sought after deal for you. So data gives you that flexibility. Another very important aspect is if you keep doing data collection and analysis over a period of time, then you start spotting trends very early. What's happening? What is the product? What is the thing? What is the product that is going under pressure? Or what is the upcoming product? What is something that is picking up? So you can know these trends very early. You can know certain other aspects of your costs, like employee cost is shooting up, then your finance cost is shooting up. So you should, you catch those trends very quickly, and then you can actually go on and pinpoint why that particular thing is happening. So that anticipation is a very, very powerful benefit that you can have out of this. Adaptability. Once you start anticipating things very early, you can also adapt yourself based on your grip of the data. You can redesign your products, you can redesign your services, you can change your cost structures, you can change your offerings, you can change your marketing mechanism, you can reduce or increase your financing requirements and reinvent yourself, reposition yourself, adapt. Biggest challenge in today's uncertain, dynamic, changing times. It's a big strength of having a strong grip on data. So, in short, data is equal to power. The right data is equal to power to influence your game of business. It can help you survive, revive, and thrive. Survive any difficult challenge that is coming your way, revive from a very difficult position, and thrive in what is your core business. But all this is possible when you know where to look. Otherwise, it's a big jungle to get lost into, and the details and complexities, and not really touch the core where your gold is. So, I recommend strongly from all my experience that you should begin the primary focus of your journey to leverage data needs to be on the product wise, finding out the product wise profitability. This is the track which is the quickest, which is the most rewarding track in your journey to become a fully data driven business. So now in the next section we will see how to actually do it. To do that you need to have a look at the classic interplay between the fixed cost and variable cost of your business. It's a slight, now we are getting into the details and technicalities of how actually to follow this track of finding out product wise profitability and gain a certain mastery of your business through data. So there is fixed cost versus variable cost. We have a rough idea of what do we mean by fixed cost. Say the monthly rent that you pay, the employee salary that you pay is a fixed cost, and how much raw material you ordered in this month is a variable cost. Some rough idea we are having, and this idea is like within a time interval, within a time lapse fashion, we have heard, seen, done this certain sense. You can feel it practically. It's very intuitive to understand fixed cost and variable cost in a time-lapse manner, like a month. If you consider a month as a unit of time within which what were your costs, you can find out and you can identify the fixed and the variable costs thereof intuitively. That's called the monthly expenses. If you look at monthly expenses, the overheads that you call as rent and salaries and etc. are your fixed costs, and the materials consumed or purchased or ordered are your variable costs. But there is another very interesting way to look at costing, or the fixed cost and variable cost bifurcation. That is the product costing or unit costing. Now, we will use a bakery's example as a running example throughout to learn these concepts and start seeing how we can apply for them ourselves. So, suppose you are making a cake. So, the raw material required for it, the material consumed, now becomes your fixed cost for making one single cake. So, suppose you require 150 rupees of raw material to make a cake and you're selling it at 350 rupees. So 150 rupees material consumed is fixed. It's not going to change dramatically over the next or third cake that you're going to immediately make. So that becomes your fixed, and the overheads, the rent and salary. In a month, if you say paid 50,000, 45,000, 40,000 rent and salary, that becomes your variable expense. Like example given, so the rent and salary is 50,000. The overheads, the sum total of overheads is 50,000 rupees. If you make 100 cakes, then for one single cake, the cost of overhead comes out to 500 rupees. But if you start making more cakes, if you start making 500 cakes, then the cost of overheads per cake goes down to 100 rupees. So it varies. The point is, it is variable. So when you look at the unit costing product, the overheads become variable. And this variability of overheads, if you get a hang of it, if you get to see that it differs from product to product, and if you can catch hold of that, you get to something that we are after, to find out the product level profitability. Now, to understand the concept, So to understand the concept further, we need to look at pricing for margins, pricing and margins. So what you do when you are pricing a particular product, say a cake in this example, you are looking at the raw material cost and how much it makes cost you to actually, in terms of ingredients, to actually produce this cake. You might want to add some packaging costs and everything. You come up with the material cost, and you add a certain margin that it cost you 150 rupees of material to make this cake. So you're not going to sell at 150. You're going to add a certain margin to take care of other expenses. So you say add 200 rupees margin, and you plan to now sell that cake for 350 rupees. It's a very simple, logical, intuitive thing. And when a unit is sold, it contributes its margins to the business. In this case, if you sell one cake, so that cake contributes 200 rupees as margin to the business. Now, over a period of time, such contributions from different sales of different products accumulate, and what you have is a cumulative margins of all sold products in that period of time equates to gross profit. So suppose you sold a certain number of cakes, cookies and chocolates in a month, and the margins of all those individual products were multiplied by their individual units sold, and when you add that up, you get gross profit for that particular month. Now we'll see all these things in detail in a case study. But what is the gross profit used for? First is to pay off the overheads like rent, salary, other expenses. We are not right now, we're going to go till the level of profits before tax. So what's left after you have paid off your overheads is your profit before tax. And we're not going to touch the subject of tax, it's a different volume altogether. But let's say that is what remains is your net profit before tax. Never forget the tax, but right now we're not going to deal with the tax. So usually we are aware of the cumulative net profit for a particular period. How much of net profit we have made in a particular month. We are aware, or we should be aware. That's something that everybody knows, understands that they should be doing it. If you're not, you should. This does not do the trick. Why? You know the profits, but how can you impact that profit? You don't really have an access. But to dig deeper into this profit, you need to ask this question: do all products contribute equally to the net profit? Do they impact the net profit in an equal fashion? The answer is no. If you look closely, some products may take up more manpower than others. Some products may require more marketing efforts and expenses than others. Some product may incur higher finance costs than others. Here, you will start noticing that some overheads start showing their variable nature. So if you look closely enough, no two products have the same impact on net profits, even if they have the same margins at unit levels. Like you have kept the same margins for all the products when you design your costing and pricing strategy, but the impact that each product has on net profit is not going to be the same. Reason being these three, that there is variability in terms of how much overhead was accounted for or was required for producing different products. So product wise overheads is the key to finding out product wise profitability. Usually we don't get into the details of how much overhead was required where. So we get a generalized profit, cumulative final net profit figure, which makes us happy or sad, but does not really leave us with clue of how to impact it. When you go into the details and spread and distribute as much as possible your overheads over different products, you start getting product wise profits. So get a hang of variability in overheads, and this is where the doorways to net profits are. Very, very, very important. Now, Now let's take the next step in how do you actually find this key of variability. We found out that it is important. We found out that product level profitability is the right, I've recommended that as a right track. And to do that, we need to find the variable distribution of overheads. So finding that is the key to product wise profitability. So the variable distribution of overheads, you look at your operations overheads, finance overheads, marketing overheads, administrative overheads. Mostly it will be rents, salaries, interest cost. In some more sophisticated calculation, you can take in depreciation if you have solid investments into machinery, and some administrative expenses. So if you look closely, there will be some part of it which will stay common, which is like you can't really put a finger to it, like where can I allocate or how much can I allocate this to a particular product. Others you can distribute product wise, and some things you can clearly distribute, and for going to the next level of this game, you can actually devise certain questionnaires, do some estimations, do some measurements to find out which overheads are going, and then extrapolate the whole thing and go to the depths of how much you can distribute your overheads product wise. So let's look at operations. You have teams, people working in your operations team. If you know their timesheets, which products they worked on, I know kind of very difficult thing for people to make you give real numbers, but you can run some experiments to find out, and that should give you some distribution. You might come up with some insights into that. Then machinery, how much of capacity is utilized for making which product? That's another interesting thing to look at. Materials, how much time and what kind of space and what kind of flow raw materials to finished goods are having for different products. If that is the cause of significant concern, we should look into details. Overall operations is the most complex data of the lot, but it can be worthwhile if your major overheads are like here. And if you look at marketing, you have teams, then you have timesheets. The marketing team can, if they want, can tell you how much time was spent on which project or which product. You can get a sense. You can take some slice of their not make it a compulsory long-term activity, but do some experimentation, do some estimation, do some measurements, and then get a hang of this data. And the other important aspect is how much money you've spent on marketing, and you can then try to segregate, be more planned in future, but right now also try to segregate how much of your money is going into common things like brand building exercises, and how much is going to direct product level advertisements, or say any expense thereof in terms of marketing. So if you segregate this, you should get a better hang of what's happening at product level. Finance. So as I said, if you have a lot of machinery and assets which depreciate over time, you should consider how much each product is utilizing those machineries to allocate depreciation. Slightly more sophisticated concept, but can be worked out. It's not impossible. It's fairly logical. It's based on the principle that a machinery costs you something and has a lifespan of something, and so it will depreciate over a period. It will become less and less value. Like you buy a car and then you sell it after 3, 4, 5 years, it will be sold at a value lesser than what you bought it. So the usage caused depreciation. And working capital, how much of your money is blocked in the entire cycle of different products, right from the time you start recording, uh, sorry, right from the time you start purchasing your raw materials, then you're processing it, then you're making it into a finished goods, and then you're selling it, and then you're getting money for the sales made. Taking everything into account, you can find out where maximum working capital requirement is coming. Now you suddenly start feeling that this whole thing is becoming complex, and yes, it can become complex. So you need to be aware of where exactly you are in your data leverage journey. Don't jump the guns, don't go for everything together, go step by step. Now, if you don't have any such data leverage or data analysis already being done in your company, in your business, the best way to start, or the very good place to start, is not necessarily best, but a very good place to start is preparing a detailed unit level costing and pricing sheet. This is where you look at your products in detail, find out how much raw material and packaging costs are going to be incurred in producing a single product, and then what are the pricing that you're going to keep for it. Must have. Once you do this, you will usually have your monthly sales data to play around with, and then what you need next is you need to list all your expenses of overheads and identify the top 3 to 5 expenses which account for roughly close to 75% of the total expenses as possible. So you can say go for 65% coverage also, that's also fine. 3 to 5 is a good heads to look into. So that first of all gives you focus and reduces your scope of where you want to go. You might have some heads which are very easy to allocate to products, so you might include those also in list, and increase your grip on the variability of overheads. Now you dig deep into these 3 to 5 heads, find out what are common expenses that you cannot really distribute amongst products, and the rest you try and do it to try to allocate those expenses to different product as much possible. Like example given, one of your employees is just involved in making cakes, so his salary, his expenses towards his salary and benefits can go directly to the specific overheads of cake sale. So that's something to look at, and once you start digging deep, you'll find out some of these distributions. Definitely you can distribute something. If not, then you can design experiments, estimates, and do a better job at distributing more and more. So we will go through a case study to see these things in detail. But the point is, we can have a laser sharp focused recommended track for you to approach this whole thing. And the beauty of it is that every step that you take has some hidden treasures. If you don't have costing pricing sheet, and if you prepare that in the first place, that itself will give you certain insights which are useful, which you can immediately put into action for your benefit. You can either reduce some losses, or you can tap into some leakages, or you can try and close and plug those leakages, or you can really start getting into the focus areas that you want to grow in your business. So no matter where you are in your journey for data analysis, you take the next step on this track, you will find gold, you will find value out there, you will find some treasure that you can put it to use, and then use it as a fuel, use it as the energy to go for the next step. Now let's look at the case study for the cake, cookies and chocolate business that we're talking about. Here is a very simplified, summarized product costing and pricing sheet. It only tells me the sum total of raw material, packaging cost, selling price, and I can then calculate the gross margin and the percentage of gross margin on selling price that I'm having. So for cake, say, if my raw materials and packaging cost is 150 and I'm selling it at 350, my gross margin is 200 rupees. Percentage wise, it works out to 57% of the selling price. Similarly, for cookies, I have 38% gross margin on selling price, and for chocolates, I have 50% gross margin on selling price. In a month, if I take my sales, all the sales details, and I summarize them, so I will have the number of units I have sold for each of the products. And this is an oversimplified case study. You will never have just one single cake, you'll have variety of cakes, and life becomes more and more complex. But right now, let's say, even if you don't have such simplicity, you can categorize your products, that all cakes come under this section. So product line level analysis, let's consider that is what we are doing right now. So you have a cake which sells at 350, you've sold 500 of those, the margin is 200 per cake, so your contribution is 1 lakh rupees from selling those cakes, and the total sales was 1,75,000 rupees. So 75,000 goes towards the raw materials of cake, and 1 lakh is something that you have in your hand as contribution in the business, from which you will start paying off your overheads. One bonus here is you can match your theoretical material consumed cost as per your costing pricing sheet with the actual material consumed that you will get from your bills of purchases and inventory analysis. And if you can get hold of that data, this is a bonus. Once you start digging into data, this is something that will tell you, as against the expected cost of goods sold of 1,02,000 rupees, how much was actually spent. And if there is significant gap, then you can look at the reasons thereof. This is completely a bonus. This is not necessary for understanding the concepts here, but you must take advantage of this in your business. Then you look at your expense sheet. You have listed your expenses: rent 25,000, employee expense 20,000, and the other expense like marketing, finance, depreciation, license, admin, and miscellaneous expenses, all totaling to 78,500. This is the case. Now, the gray area you see here is where we are actually doing the trick. Yeah? This is the key, that we're trying to see if we can distribute these expenses over different products. So rent, I'm unable to. If I go further down into details, I can, but right now, let's say, right now I'm putting it in common. Then marketing, employee expenses. Though, as we saw in the example, one employee, which costs the company 20,000 rupees, is doing only producing cakes and helping me with that. So I put all the employee cost into cakes. Then marketing expense. 10,000 rupees worth of marketing expense was done to promote the chocolates. Try and promote and sell chocolates. This is what goes here. The cookies and chocolates don't have this employee expense because I have bought it off from a vendor and I'm selling it under my brand name. So this is the case, just to explain the variability. So such variabilities are something that you need to spot, that whether this cost actually can I allocate to a particular product. Finance cost, I have kept it in common. Depreciation, again, I'm using all my equipments which I've invested into making just cakes, so that goes into cake head. And this is how I've segregated 35,000 out of 78,500 into variable cost. Now let's look at next thing. The simplistic view of overall profitability tells me that I have, after paying off the raw materials, I have 1,17,500 contribution left. This comes from the sales summary table. And then I have expenses of 78,500 rupees, leaving me profitability of 39,000 rupees. Now this can either This can either make me happy or sad, but doesn't really go a long way into getting me into the grips of what exactly is happening. So, here comes product wise profitability. This is something that will tell you what is happening under the summary of 39,000 net profit before tax. So, you have this sales summary to begin with. The total sales of cakes was 1,75,000, contribution was 1 lakh, share in sales was 82%, 1,75,000 as 82% of 2,14,500 of total sales. So the common expenses, this is derived from this expense distribution table. So what I'm going to do is 43,500 was the common expense. I'm going to distribute it in ratio of the sales. That's a fair way of distribution. That may not be the only way of distribution, but it's a very, so you should begin with this approach, and later on, unless you have a strong reason not to do this, use some other approach. So the common expenses booked under cake is 35,490, and the specific expenses that we found out in terms of this employee cost and the depreciation cost is 25,000. That also I have booked under specific expenses for making and selling cakes. So that leaves me product wise profitability of 39,500. So I am taking the contribution of cakes, that gives me 1 lakh rupees as gross margin. Remove this reduce this common expense and specific expense, that leaves me 39,510 of product wise profitability. So the net profitability as percentage of sales of 1,75,000 works out to be 23% against the gross profitability of 57%. When you look at cookies, the net profitability by calculating through the same method works out to 18% against the gross profitability of 38%. So in chocolates, it works out to minus 20. So I booked a loss of 4,000 against a sale of 20,000 rupees. So it gives me minus 20% as profitability. That's making me loss of 20%. And the gross profitability that I began with was 50%. So I'm selling 50 rupees worth of chocolate for 100 rupees. Yet in the month's time, the chocolate sales of 20,000 rupees is making me a loss of 4,500 rupees. This is the very, very important insight that product wise profitability can start giving you. This tells you immediately what to do. Like your cake is a pillar business that gives you majority of your profitability. Cookies is doing all right. It can continue and it can be made a major contributor. You need to do something about chocolates to fix them. It's a very simple case that we are taking here to understand the concept. Businesses usually are very complex, and the moment we start having data beyond our memory, we start losing the sight of it, and we'll come up with very interesting insight when we do this entire exercise. So this is the test case. This format shall be shared. You can collect all your numbers and start playing around with it. You need some basic Excel details knowledge. Not much learning over there, but the real key is to find out and capture data, and especially the variable nature of your overheads. If I can catch hold of those, that will give me a real gold. Now I am going to go to the final section. It talks about the winning strategy. So winning strategy is ongoingly keep playing your best game. Isn't it so? Like you found out what is your game and how to improve it once, and then now you're improved it and you're playing your best possible game to win. So long-term winning strategy is to keep doing this ongoingly. How do we do that? How do we do that? So once we look at product-wise profitability, we immediately have a very obvious thing to do is segregate powerhouses from the laggards. It's very obvious, very intuitive. Once you start seeing the end analysis, your mind will start working in these lines. So what do we do with the powerhouses? Sell more of them. You know, target more customers, put more effort into branding and marketing, create a budget for target-based advertising, create similar products. You know, you can start looking at ways to grow this particular product line. What do you do with the laggards? Now, there are some important questions you need to do. You need to ask yourself, is this strategic? Is the example given? We're offering a low price or a discount to attract new customers. We're building a new vertical in the business. There might be some strategic reasons because of which the product might look like a laggard. Like chocolates, we spent 10,000 advertising. So it might be a new product and that's the reason. So there can be a strategic reason. So then you need to play it cool. Don't really mess with that. Unless you change the strategy, of course. Now, if the reason is not strategic, you're not aware of this, you did not plan on doing this, like it happened in the case of chocolates, so then you need to look at the costs, which costs need attention. Here in that case, go dig deeper into the costs of chocolate, selling price, overheads, and what is the area you really need to pay attention. Can something be reduced over there? How is competition faring? What products they are offering at what price? Let's look. How many of them are they thriving in their business? You can kind of try and get a sense. Don't get too much lost in competition, but try and get a sense of what's happening around them. Then you look at if all these competition is doing all right and everything, and also come up with data about what they're selling at. Is there any scope of increasing our price based on the above 2 points? If the costing is all right, competition data you have in front of you, can you increase the price? Is there any other, if you can't increase the price, then is there any other real good reason to keep selling this product? Like the customer will run away if he doesn't find this. Even if I'm making loss, I have to sell this to keep my customers, to keep them engaged in doing business with me. Is there any of such reason? If no, then you should consider stopping this product and look at reinventing it around the periphery. Look at how you can make a product similar to this. Can you? Not necessarily you must, but can you reinvent this product into a profitable version? Of course, the analysis of each case will be different. You should look at your own case and analyze that. If you need any support in this entire process, you can engage us. You can hire one-on-one consulting services from us to get these things done. You have to understand it's an ongoing process. Once you start getting a hang of this activity, it will be like a super important thing for you. You will, once you start reaping the benefits, you will put very high importance to this. Now, this is also a foundation to thinking and acting strategically in your business. You keep playing your best game. That would have the best shot at you keep winning ongoingly. So if you want to succeed ongoingly in your business, if you want to keep winning, the prerequisite is you bring in your best game. And see, this is irrespective of what the market is throwing at you, what the uncertainties are throwing at you, what the competition is doing at you, what disruptions are happening in the market. This is irrespective of that, because this is purely coming from your own data. If you have a weak foundation within, then you can really have a tough time fighting. So your best shot is to get your data and your leverages in order, have a strong grip on them so that you can really put up a great fight and maximize your chances of winning in these uncertain times. More so in these uncertain times. It's not only in these uncertain times, more so in these uncertain times. The benefits are huge. Once you start finding product level profitability periodically and take actions appropriately, you'll start seeing huge impact, increased profitability, increased stability, because you'll start building cash reserves. You will be careful in how to utilize profits. First step is you will make more profits. Second step is you will start thinking strategically about how to deploy your profit, and you can then actually start building cash reserves. Very few businesses can build cash reserves and sustain the uncertainties that market throws and buy themselves a breather to That's why the companies that do have cash reserves have the best chance at increased stability and greater opportunity to reinvent themselves. With these resources, you can do more marketing, more new product development that shall surely be give you access to newer and newer markets, and newer doors for growth will open for you. So doing this ongoingly has huge benefits, and that's what I want to interest you into, this exciting journey, and take charge of your business, play your best game, keep playing your best game, and keep winning. All the best. Thank you.